Audio Jungle.
Liam and Chloe wanted an adventure, a real adventure, not one of those boring trips where everything is planned. No, they craved the unknown, the thrill of discovery. So they packed their bags, filled the gas tank of their trusty old car, and set off. Their destination? Anywhere the road might take them. They unfolded a large paper map, its creases worn from many hopeful journeys. They decided to ignore the thick, bold lines of the interstate highways. Those roads were too fast, too predictable for the kind of journey they had in mind this time. They wanted something different, something memorable. Instead, they chose the thin, squiggly lines. The ones that snaked through parts of the country most people only saw from airplane windows, if at all. These were the scenic routes, the back roads, the forgotten highways leading to places time might have overlooked. "Think of what we'll see," Chloe had said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Liam agreed, imagining quaint small towns and breathtaking, untouched landscapes. He pictured old diners with friendly faces and stories to tell. They were looking for a break from their busy city lives, a chance to breathe fresh air and see stars undimmed by urban glow. This trip was supposed to be relaxing. The sun beat down on the black asphalt, making heat waves shimmer above the road. For hours they drove. The landscape turned from green hills to dusty plains, then to the stark, dry beauty of the desert. Cacti stood like lonely sentinels, their arms raised to the empty blue sky. Mountains, hazy and purple, loomed in the far distance, never seeming to get any closer. They hadn't seen another car for what felt like ages. The only sound was the hum of their tires on the road and the occasional gust of wind whistling past the windows. It was quiet, maybe too quiet. Liam glanced at the fuel gauge. It was starting to dip lower than he liked. Should we have stuck to the main road? He wondered aloud, a tiny seed of unease planting itself in his mind. Chloe, usually so cheerful, was also looking a bit concerned, peering at the map with a frown. The thin lines on the paper didn't offer much information about gas stations or towns. They just kept winding onward, deeper into the vast, silent expanse. The sun began to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and reds. Beautiful, yes, but also a reminder that darkness would soon fall upon this empty, desolate place. Just as true worry began to set in, as the last sliver of sun disappeared, Chloe spotted something. "Look!" she exclaimed, pointing ahead. It was a faint glow, a promise of civilization in the encroaching darkness. A sign, weathered and barely readable, appeared by the roadside. Whispering Gulch. Population ? The question mark seemed like a joke, or maybe something more unsettling. Liam slowed the car, exchanging a curious glance with Chloe. Neither of them remembered seeing Whispering Gulch on their detailed map. It was as if the town had simply materialized out of the desert twilight, a phantom settlement not meant to be found. They drove down what seemed to be the main street. It was eerily quiet, not a soul stirred. Buildings leaned at odd angles, their paint peeling like sunburnt skin. Windows were dark, like vacant eyes staring out at nothing. Some were boarded up, others just empty black squares. It looked like a town from an old Western movie, a place where time had stopped, or perhaps a place that time had forgotten completely. A shiver crawled up Liam's spine. This wasn't the quaint, charming town he had envisioned. This place felt wrong. Deeply, unsettlingly wrong. A single streetlight flickered weakly at the far end of the street, casting long, dancing shadows that made the silent buildings seem to writhe. The air was heavy, and the silence was so profound it pressed against their eardrums. Even the desert crickets seemed to be holding their breath. Chloe, who was usually the first to find charm in quirky places, was uncharacteristically quiet. She just stared out the window, her brow furrowed. "Maybe we should just keep going," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the car's idling engine. But where would they go? The fuel needle was practically on empty now. Liam pulled the car over. "We need gas," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt, "and maybe a place to stay for the night. It can't be that bad, can it?" He looked around. There had to be a gas station, a motel, something. Then he saw it. A flickering neon sign, half its letters dark, spelling out Motel. Below it, a more traditional faded wooden sign read, Whittaker Arms. It looked ancient, possibly as old as the town itself. It didn't look inviting, not at all, but it was their only option in this strange, silent place. The Whittaker Arms Motel looked like it had seen better centuries, let alone decades. Its paint, once perhaps a cheerful white, was now a grimy, peeling yellow-gray. One of the porch pillars sagged dangerously. The neon motel sign buzzed erratically, the O and E completely dark, leaving a stark Motel that blinked like a dying firefly. Liam took a deep breath and pushed open the creaky wooden door to the office. A little bell tinkled somewhere in the dusty gloom within. Chloe followed close behind, her hand gripping his arm tightly. She didn't like this place one bit. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of dust, old paper, and something else. Something faintly medicinal and unpleasant. A single dim bulb hung from the ceiling, casting weak light on a cluttered counter. Behind it, an old man sat hunched in a rocking chair, his face obscured by shadows. He didn't look up immediately when they entered, just continued his slow, rhythmic rocking. "Can we help you?" Liam asked, his voice sounding too loud in the oppressive silence. The rocking stopped. The old man slowly raised his head, and his eyes, pale and distant, seemed to look right through them. He had a long, gaunt face and his skin was like dried parchment. "Looking for a room?" the man rasped, his voice like sandpaper. "Got plenty. Not many folks come through Whispering Gulch these days." He gestured vaguely towards a dusty guest register on the counter. Liam opened it. The pages were filled with spidery handwriting, names and dates going back years, decades even. Some of the ink was so faded it was barely legible. He signed Liam and Chloe Parker, and the old man handed him a tarnished brass key attached to a large wooden tag with the number 7 burned into it. "Room 7, end of the hall. Don't make too much noise," the proprietor mumbled, already turning back to his shadows. Their room was just as unsettling as the rest of the motel. The wallpaper, patterned with faded roses, was peeling in several places, revealing dark stains underneath. What were those stains? They didn't want to know. A single, saggy bed dominated the small space. The air was stale and cold, despite the desert heat outside. Chloe shivered, pulling her sweater tighter around herself. There was a strange, faint scent in the room, like old perfume mixed with something metallic. Liam tried the light switch. It flickered, then cast a sickly yellow glow. He wished they could just sleep in the car, but the car needed gas, and they were so tired. Liam woke with a start. Sunlight, thin and pale, was trying to push its way through the grimy window pane. For a moment he didn't know where he was. Then the memories of the long drive, the strange town, and the creepy Whittaker Arms Motel came flooding back. He sat up, stretching, a yawn catching in his throat. He turned to say good morning to Chloe, but the other side of the bed was empty. The sheets were smooth, undisturbed, as if no one had slept there at all. Strange. Maybe she was an early riser, already up and exploring. "Chloe?" he called out, his voice a little hoarse. No answer, just the heavy silence of the old motel room. He got out of bed, his feet hitting the cold, worn floorboards. He checked the tiny, equally grim bathroom. Empty. Her toothbrush wasn't by the sink. Her toiletry bag wasn't on the chipped porcelain shelf. A knot of unease began to tighten in Liam's stomach. This wasn't like Chloe. She wouldn't just wander off without saying anything, especially not in a place as eerie as Whispering Gulch. He tried to stay calm. There had to be a simple explanation. He quickly got dressed, his eyes scanning the room again and again. Her suitcase, the one she'd placed carefully by the rickety wardrobe, was gone. Her jacket, which she'd hung on the back of the only chair, was also missing. It was as if she had never been in the room at all. Panic started to bubble up, cold and sharp. "Chloe!" he shouted, louder this time, his voice echoing slightly in the stillness. He threw open the room door and looked down the dim, empty hallway. Nothing. No sound. No sign of her anywhere. This couldn't be happening. His heart pounded in his chest. He raced back into the room, frantically searching. Under the bed, in the small, dusty closet, behind the threadbare curtains, nothing. It was as if she had simply vanished, evaporated into thin air. But that was impossible, wasn't it? People don't just disappear. He felt a rising dread, a terrifying coldness spreading through him. Then his eyes fell on something small, glinting faintly on the dusty bedside table. It was a tiny silver charm, shaped like a crescent moon. A charm from Chloe's favorite bracelet. She never took it off. Why was it here, alone? Liam snatched up the tiny moon charm, his fingers trembling. This was proof. Proof Chloe had been here. He ran back to the motel office, the little bell above the door jangling violently as he burst in. The old proprietor was in his rocking chair, same as last night, as if he hadn't moved an inch. "My wife! Chloe, she's gone!" Liam blurted out, his voice strained with panic. "We checked in together last night. Room 7, she's missing." The old man stopped rocking. He looked at Liam with those same pale, empty eyes. There was no surprise in them, no concern. "Wife?" the proprietor rasped, his voice slow and deliberate. "You checked in alone, son. Just you." He gestured a bony finger towards the open guest register on the counter. Liam's heart turned to ice. He leaned over the counter, his eyes darting to the entry he'd made just hours before. It now read, in his own handwriting, Liam Parker. Chloe's name was gone, completely gone, as if it had never been written. "No, no, that's not right!" Liam cried, his voice shaking. "She was with me. Her name was right there, beside mine. I wrote it myself." The old man just shrugged, a slow, indifferent movement of his thin shoulders. "Register don't lie," he mumbled. And then, more unsettlingly, "Town don't forget, but it don't always remember what ain't meant to be remembered." Liam felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. He backed away from the counter, his mind reeling. He showed the proprietor the room key. "Number 7. "There was a double bed," he insisted. The old man just shook his head slowly. "Room 7's always been a single. Always." This couldn't be. Was he going crazy? Desperate, Liam stumbled out of the motel and onto the silent street. He had to find someone, anyone, who had seen them arrive together. He saw a woman sweeping the wooden porch of a dilapidated general store. He rushed over to her. "Excuse me, ma'am, did you see a woman with me last night? Brown hair, about this tall?" he asked, his words tumbling out. The woman looked at him with a blank expression, then slowly shook her head. "Ain't seen no woman with you, mister. Just saw your car pull in late. You were alone." Everywhere he asked, the answer was the same. No one remembered Chloe. It was as if she had been erased from existence. Defeated and terrified, Liam wandered through the dusty, silent streets of Whispering Gulch. The town felt like a trap, its old buildings like watching eyes. He clutched the small silver moon charm in his hand, the only tangible link to Chloe, the only proof that she was real, that he wasn't losing his mind. How could everyone not remember her? How could her name vanish from the register? It was impossible. Unless there was something terribly wrong with this town. Something ancient and sinister. He found himself drawn to a small neglected building with town archives barely visible above the door. Hesitantly, he pushed open the door. Inside it smelled of decaying paper and long-forgotten secrets. Dust lay thick on everything. He found old newspapers, brittle and yellowed with age, stacked haphazardly on shelves. He started to look through them, his hands shaking. Headlines spoke of droughts, of tough times, of a town slowly fading. Then, he found it. A small article tucked away in a corner of a paper dated decades ago. Another traveler vanishes near Whittaker property. His blood ran cold. Another? He kept searching, his dread growing with each discovery. There were more, scattered through the years, brief mentions. A family of 4, gone without a trace. A lone salesman, his car found abandoned. A young couple on their honeymoon, never seen again. All disappeared near Whispering Gulch. All of them erased. The articles sometimes mentioned a lack of witnesses, a strange collective amnesia among the townsfolk regarding the specifics. The name Whittaker appeared frequently, always connected to the land, the original motel, the very founding of this desolate place. Jedediah Whittaker, the town's founder, a man shrouded in local myth. Whispers and rumors painted a grim picture. They said Jedediah Whittaker was a strange man, obsessed with the desert and its hidden powers. Some said he made a pact, a deal with something old and hungry that slept beneath the sands. Something that required sustenance. Others claimed he discovered a way to manipulate memories, to pluck people from the world and from the minds of those who knew them. The Whittaker Arms, built on his land, was said to be the heart of it all, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. Liam retreated to the dreaded Room 7, the silver charm clutched tightly in his sweaty palm. He had to think. The newspaper clippings, the hushed and fearful rumors, the proprietor's chilling words, it all pointed to something monstrous. This town, this motel, it didn't just make people disappear. It made them forgotten. It was as if a cosmic editor was snipping threads from the tapestry of reality, and Chloe had been one of those threads. The thought made him feel sick to his stomach. How could such a thing be possible? It defied all logic, all reason. He looked around the dreary room again, his eyes searching for any other sign, any other clue Chloe might have unknowingly left. His gaze fell upon the faded, peeling wallpaper with its pattern of roses. He remembered the dark stains beneath the torn sections. He approached one, near the head of the bed, and carefully peeled back a loose edge a little further. Underneath, scratched faintly into the old plaster of the wall itself, were initials. Dozens of them. Sets of initials, some with dates. JD 1958, AL plus RL 1972, SK 1999. Were these other victims? A horrifying realization dawned on him. The Whittaker Arms Motel wasn't just a place to rest your head, it was a hunter. It lured weary travelers in, offered them shelter, and then in the dead of night, it consumed them. Not just their bodies, but their very existence from the memory of the world. That's why no one remembered Chloe. That's why her name vanished from the register. The motel, or whatever dark power resided within Whispering Gulch, had erased her. The townsfolk weren't necessarily lying, they genuinely didn't remember. Their memories had been stolen too. The small silver moon charm in his hand suddenly felt immensely heavy. It was the only thing the motel had missed. A tiny oversight in its otherwise perfect act of erasure. Why this charm? Was it too small? Too insignificant? Or was it imbued with some lingering essence of Chloe, something the motel couldn't quite digest? He didn't know. But he knew one thing for sure. This charm was his only proof that Chloe had existed, that their shared journey to this terrible place had been real. It was his anchor to sanity in a world that was trying to tell him he was alone. Liam knew he couldn't stay in Whispering Gulch a moment longer. He was walking a razor's edge. If he stayed, he risked the same fate as Chloe. He might vanish. Or worse, he might forget her completely, his mind wiped clean by the motel's insidious power. The thought of forgetting Chloe, of their life together being reduced to nothing, was more terrifying than death itself. He had to get out. Now. He pocketed the silver charm, its cool metal a small comfort against his skin. He grabbed his car keys. He wouldn't even try to get gas. He'd run on fumes if he had to. He didn't bother checking out. What was the point? The old man would probably just stare at him with those dead eyes, claiming he'd never even seen him before. As Liam hurried towards his car, parked like a lonely sentinel on the dusty main street, he felt eyes on him. He couldn't see anyone, not a single soul on the porches or peering from behind the grimy windows. But he felt them, the whole town, watching, waiting. Did they know he was trying to escape? Did they even care? Or were they just passive observers to the motel's grim work? He jumped into his car, the engine sputtering to life with a reassuring roar. He didn't look back at the Whittaker Arms, he couldn't bear to. He slammed the car into gear and sped out of Whispering Gulch, dust billowing behind him like a desperate farewell. The town sign, with its mocking question marks for a population, receded in his rearview mirror until it was just a speck. He drove like a man possessed, his foot pressed hard on the accelerator, not caring where he was going, only that he was getting away. Away from the silence, the dust, the forgetting. The sun was high in the sky when his car finally coughed, sputtered, and died on the side of another desolate stretch of desert highway. He was out of gas. But he was miles away from Whispering Gulch. He got out of the car, relief washing over him, so potent it made him weak at the knees. He was out. He had escaped. He looked back in the direction he'd come, half expecting to see the hazy outline of the town pursuing him. But there was nothing. Just empty desert, and the long, lonely road. He was safe. But he would never be the same. Liam eventually made it back to civilization, a gasping, traumatized man with a wild story. He told the police about Chloe, about Whispering Gulch, about the Whittaker Arms Motel. They listened, of course. They even sent a patrol car out, following his vague directions. But they found nothing. No town called Whispering Gulch, no ancient motel, just miles and miles of empty desert. The officers looked at him with pity, then with suspicion. They suggested he was suffering from stress, from dehydration, perhaps even a mental breakdown from being lost in the desert. He had no proof, except for a tiny silver moon charm. His friends and family tried to be understanding. But when he spoke of Chloe, they would exchange worried glances. "Liam," they'd say gently, "you came on this trip alone, remember?" Chloe. Chloe who? Their memories of her were fading, becoming indistinct, like old photographs exposed to too much light. Soon, they didn't remember her at all. Only Liam did. Only Liam, with his silver charm and his horrifying, indelible memories, knew she had ever existed. He was her sole living monument, a keeper of a memory the world had discarded. He sounded like a madman, he knew. But he also knew the truth. Whispering Gulch is still out there, hidden in the folds of the desert, waiting. It doesn't appear on any maps. You can't find it if you go looking for it. It finds you. When you're tired, when you're lost, when you take that one wrong turn onto a road that seems to lead nowhere. It waits for the unsuspecting, the weary traveler looking for a moment's rest. The Whittaker Arms Motel still stands, its faded sign a deceptive beacon in the twilight. The old proprietor still rocks in his chair, his eyes empty, waiting for new names to write in his cursed register. So, if you're ever driving through the vast, lonely deserts and you see a town that shouldn't be there, a town that feels wrong, keep driving. Don't stop. No matter how tired you are, no matter how low your fuel is, because the Whittaker Arms still has vacancies. It's always looking for new guests. And it doesn't just take your money or your time, it takes your companions. It takes your past. It takes your very existence from the memory of the world, leaving behind only whispers. And perhaps, if you're very, very unlucky, a single forgotten trinket. Don't say I didn't warn you.